Alright, everybody, so Kamen Rider Zeztz episodes 46 and 47. So, yeah, we're basically in the end game at this point. So, yeah, and apologies for a couple slip-ups on some of the YouTube uploads for these podcast episodes, where I did not adjust the episode numbers, and I've had to re-upload a couple of these. So, yeah, mainly the one right before this and one that was in the 30s, I believe. So, yeah, and there was a slip up on the Patreon uploads as well where I completely forgot to upload one of the podcast episode things until 2 weeks after, when I went over the next two episodes after that. So, yeah, I'm really trying to manage my time well with these. So, yeah. But, so we pick up where 45 left off with Nem waking up in the Zeztz room with Baku right there. She wonders how he's still there, considering that she saw him disappear. And she says, "Didn't you disappear in reality too?" And he says that basically because he's been traveling between the dream and real worlds, he has developed a bit of resistance to black cases. Now, this isn't completely like he's fine and whatever from everything, but what it does signal is that he slowly starts fading away from existence in the real world. But when he woke up in his bed, he quickly got his Zeztz driver, used the impact capsum, and turned into Zeztz, and it stabilized him for the moment, so he wouldn't fade away. So then he tried to use the extreme capsum, but unfortunately he couldn't get back into the dream world because of what happened with Oblivion. So then he takes the Zeroider out and goes to look for Nem in reality. So then he puts the thing on the sign for Nem and everything. And basically, when she was waking up in the previous episode, or not waking up, when she was going to sleep in the previous episode, she was actually waking up in reality. But because of Oblivion taking away her memories of everything, and Phantom trapping her in an illusion world, she didn't know that this was what was happening. She thought that the real world was the dream world, and the dream world was the real world. So yeah, so it flipped it on her, which I think is actually pretty cool. And yeah, we did know that from the previous episode that like shit got flipped on her, but we didn't know that she was waking up in reality. Thankfully, they in the previous episode had it from Nem's point of view and everything. However, unless I missed something from episode 45, we didn't see this, where Baku, he managed to track her down when she woke up in the real world. And she, when he caught up to her, she was scared of Zeztz because she didn't recognize the suit and everything. She didn't recognize his voice. And when he finally got her kind of cornered in a room in a building that they're in, she passed out. And I personally assumed that this was passing out from like a bit of fear and everything. But yeah, and she woke back up in the dream world. So then Baku brought her back to the Zeztz room, put her on the couch that's in there, then used the extreme capsum to make a portal appear in the illusion world, and he then turned into his extreme form and re-entered the illusion world, and that's how he made it there in the previous episode. So yeah, we get this all answered in the first, I think 5 minutes or so. Pretty good explanations and everything for how that works. There are a couple people in one of the Discord servers I'm in who genuinely think that it's bad writing for this. It's really not. It is like a lot of the logic for the dream world and everything and how it operates, and then how the people in it operate, it's pretty logically consistent. It is dream logic, but it is logically consistent in of itself, and I really do think that some people are genuinely just overthinking certain things or questioning things that realistically are just answered if you pay attention to the dialogue and what the show shows you. There are some, like, genuinely confusing things about the show, mainly just with how they tend to frame certain things in terms of getting the storytelling underway, where I felt like they could have done another draft or another, like, take on a few different things and make it more, like, logically consistent or anything. But yeah, okay, there's the fight scene towards the end of the next episode that I'll talk about when I get there, where I feel like they deliberately, like, kind of nerfed Baku or just made him seem like an idiot, where yeah, I'll go into that when I get there. But yeah. So then Baku tells Nem to oh yeah, like I was actually going to say, basically in terms of Baku and his body changing, he has multiple times gone into the dream world from the real world using his extreme powers and the like portals and everything that he creates under him. So to me, it makes perfect sense that, like, his body would begin to change. We did see in a previous episode that basically his brain is starting to get confused between what is reality and what is the dream world. And we already saw that he had lucid dreaming powers and everything. He just didn't develop them as far as, say, someone like Nox or one of the other code agents and everything. So he's not quite as powerful as them, and he doesn't understand how to do certain things. But his powers, his lucid dreaming powers, are developing in a different way. So to me, a lot of this is logically consistent, and it's just like, when you don't have people screaming in your ear that this shit is bad writing, it's actually good writing. But anyways, or at least decent writing. But yeah. So Baku tells Nem to rest up, and once she's good to go, they'll go back into the dream world. When they do, they get back in there, and on the news, there is a thing where the lady has set up a thing where people are gonna, mainly the police, but also just telling people in general in the illusion that Baku kidnapped Nem and everything. And I do like what they do use for this. Basically, they use they repurposed footage from the first episode, from the opening of it, when Baku was rescuing Nem from the dream bad guys and everything that he fought in that episode, or that part of the episode, and it's like repurposing it and recutting it to not show Baku actually rescuing her and everything. And yeah, I do like how the subtitles refer to it as well. He says, like, it's fake news conjured up by the media, and that's not the exact wording, but he does use the term fake news, or the subtitles do use the term fake news, and it's just like, yeah, that is basically what it is. That is actual fake news. But yeah. So then we see Baku starts to come up with a plan, and then we see him, we see at the police, like, setup or whatever, that Fujimi and Nazca in the illusion world are in charge of tracking down Baku and Nem, and who volunteers to join them but Otaka. Yeah, because he was her bodyguard in the previous episode, he wants to help them track her down. So they go to Baku's apartment, they look in his room, then in his house, there's no one there. But Otaka, he looks in Baku's closet and sees the hanger that is the key to opening up the Zeztz room, so he moves it down. The door for the Zeztz room appears, he goes in, then Baku points his gun at him, but then they have a fight where Baku's gun gets ejected from his hand. He tries to take the gun that Otaka has, but then Nem, when Otaka has him at gunpoint, says that Baku didn't kidnap her. And I think she says he rescued her or something like that. And Otaka's like, what? Then Baku wrestles him to the ground, and Nem uses the extreme capsum to bring up all the memories that she has of Nox and Otaka and reabsorbs them, and it turns Otaka back into Nox and everything. And he remembers everything from before that. This is logically consistent. I'm just going to point that out. A previous episode showed that when she reabsorbed all the memories that she has of Baku, he reformed in the real world. And the next episode goes on to have something more with that as well. So, yeah. So then Baku says to Otaka that he uses the restore capsule or whatever to restore his Nox driver, or at least fill it with energy to restore and or replenish, whatever the right capsule name is. And what happens is he convinces Nox to help him deal with the Phantom because only Nox's powers can do that. So, yeah. But then Baku goes to meet with the lady, and unfortunately she's driven really mad because, and kind of in a despair, she tells him twice to return Nem to her, but then he's just like, you really thought this would make Nem happy? And then she chalks up what's going on to Baku and Oblivion's meddling and everything. That she and Nem would have this like big happy life if they weren't involved. To which it's just like, realistically, lady, like, you're the reason that Nem got into the illusion world and everything, and you teamed up with Oblivion to try and delete everything from existence and make a new reality where you and Nem could live out your lives, I guess, happily ever after. I don't fucking know. And Nem was literally going to die from Oblivion absorbing her, and you couldn't do a damn thing about it with Oblivion, because Oblivion's more powerful than you. And Baku is the only reason that Nem is still alive. So, yeah. But it's also just like, Oblivion spawned from Nem's dream. So, yeah, I feel like, yeah, her logic is definitely very confused and iffy. But obviously she's also in a state where she's not taking any blame for anything, so yeah, no. So yeah. So then she and Baku get transported outside. Baku turns into Zeztz Extreme. He starts fighting her, but then she gets put into where Nox is waiting for her, and he transports them to what looks like, I think, a factory of some kind. Transforms into his Midnight Shadow form, and they start fighting. And ultimately Nox grabs her and brings her into Shadow, and he says, the rest is up to you, Zeztz. So, yeah, I should also say that when Nem got back her memories of Nox and he turned back to normal in the dream world, he got brought back in the real world as well. His body is just sitting on the ground, asleep and everything. Which someone pointed this out during the premiere of episode 47 on the Tokusatsu channel in the live chat. Otaka got brought back in the real world in the same location that, well, the real world equivalent to the same location that he was basically left to die by Code in the first flashback we see of him in his time with Code. At least I think it was the first one. One of the first ones. And I think that's actually pretty cool. I think that that's more of a subtle thing. I don't know if necessarily they were planning on doing that, but even if not, pretty subtle thing that I wouldn't have picked up right away if it wasn't pointed out to me. So, yeah, it's actually pretty cool. So yeah, so then with that, Nem and Baku set their sights on dealing with Oblivion, now that Phantom's at least out of the way for now. So yeah, so I think this episode was actually pretty good, a pretty good, like, second part to the previous episode. I do like sort of the answers we get to the mystery of 45 and everything and how things work. I do like how they're slowly putting the band back together and everything, first with Otaka, and then stuff that's going to happen in the next episode I'll talk about in a bit. I do like that we are kind of in a kind of gray area in terms of what's happening in regards to Baku and how he's using other people kind of to do things to sort of play this chess game for dealing with the lady and Oblivion. I think he realizes that, like, with two different distinct enemies with their own powers that are equal to, if not greater than his, it makes more sense to divide and conquer. And yeah, he realizes that he really can't deal with the lady because of her illusion powers. And when we see Nox fight her, yeah, he uses his shadow powers to just basically cancel out her illusion powers so they don't really work. Not necessarily that she can't do them, it's just that they don't matter. And yeah, so we have that. So we're then left in the nebulous state of if Otaka is dead or not. Some people assumed so, but considering something that happens in the next episode, that's not entirely what happened. But yeah, so we're going to move on to 47. Oh yeah, I completely forgot a detail that the transition between Baku fighting Phantom and Otaka fighting Phantom. Basically, Baku starts fighting her, and then he tries to take her out, but she says that she's only an illusion, and it turns to where she's apparently, it seems like, possessed a guy that was with Fujimi and Nazca and the police and everything. And then, because Otaka's there and everything, he immediately sees that guy's there, because that guy immediately starts trying to go beeline towards where Baku is, I believe, or Nem is, either way. He stops him, but then he turns into the lady / Phantom, and they start fighting. So yeah, just adding that detail there before I go on to 47. Alright, so episode 47, we pick up where the last episode left off, and Baku and Nem carry out a plan to get Fujimi, Nazca, and Minami back. So, yeah, so they lure them into the Zeztz room, and Baku as Nem use the extreme capsum to get her memories back of them, and it returns them back to normal and then brings them back to reality where they were sleeping. But not only that, before that we see that Baku goes to pick up Otaka's body where it's sleeping, and he brings it back to his room where he just places him on his bed and just lets him sleep. Basically, because Nox is fighting in the dream world in the darkness is, or I think the illusions are slowly eating away at him and everything, so they need to try and help him, but also deal with the current threat of Oblivion and everything to get him back to normal and finally put an end to this mess. So yeah, so then they get Fujimi, Nazca, and Minami back to normal, and then those three wake up in the real world. Fujimi and Nasuka came up with a plan to track down the source of the fight that Otaka is experiencing. And so they go to where he was sleeping, and they see a shadowy, like, thing on the wall next to where he was sleeping, and they start tailing it. Minami wakes up in the real world and sees Otaka in Baku's bed, but then goes into the Zeztz room and meets Nem in real life for the first time, and she's all happy about it. But then she asks where Baku is, and Nem says, still in the dream world, I guess. Then Minami's just like, where's he sleeping, though? But then Nem says he's not. He can travel between the dream and real world freely. And Minami remembers the last time that she saw Baku do that, and him also having his brain mixed up, where he dressed in these code number 7 clothes because his brain was all like mixed up on what or which reality he was in. And so, yeah, that happens, and Minami's worried about him and everything because of what's happening, and she's hoping that he's not overworking himself and everything. So yeah, so then Baku, he overlooks the city and restates the mission in the last episode, which I didn't mention because I forgot about it. It's like bring back reality, I think, or something like that. And he turns into a couple different forms we haven't seen in like over 40 episodes for some of them. The first is Zetz's wing form, which he uses to fly over to Oblivion, because Oblivion's starting to disappear things from the buildings and everything. So then he starts fighting it in that form. Don't really fucking know why. He just doesn't go Extreme from the jump, because it's just like Extreme's his most powerful form. Oblivion's more powerful than Phantom, and none of these forms are nearly as powerful as Extreme. It's really fucking stupid. So yeah, so then he, when that doesn't work and Oblivion tears off the wings of this form, he transforms into Stream after getting knocked into a building, I believe, and then starts to fight Oblivion with the Stream powers. I think he's trying to mix up how he's fighting Oblivion, try to probably get Oblivion on the back foot, but at the same time, it's not great, the way that he's doing it. So then, he, after I think he gets knocked into another building, he transforms into the barrier form and starts fighting Oblivion with that. But Oblivion basically, yeah, or maybe it's then, basically he loses in that form too, but then transforms into Impact form, and because Impact is more powerful, he can kind of keep up more with Oblivion. But yeah, so he then tries to do a rider kick, even though he has the Extreme Capsum in his hand. I don't really understand why he just doesn't. Whatever. He tries to do a rider kick with just regular Impact form, but doesn't phase Oblivion, and Oblivion just basically bats him away, while also deleting some of the capsums, the other capsums that Baku has, including the Orderm capsum, or the Catastrom capsum / Orderm capsum. So yeah, but granted, I don't think Baku was going to use those anyways, but yeah. Surprised Baku didn't use his yellow lightning form or any of the other capsims he picked up from the other code agents. Might come in handy. But yeah. So then, yeah, but then, I think also at this point, Baku is, alright, the extreme capsum also starts to fade away, but then Baku quickly gets to it and saves it from fading from existence. But then, he basically gets so weakened by Oblivion's attacks that he gets transformed back to normal. Nem, meanwhile, gets back in the dream, then goes to where Baku is and gets the extreme capsum. Don't know why the fuck that she does this, other than a reactionary kind of thing, I guess. She takes the extreme capsum, winds it up, and tries to attack Oblivion, but she's not transformed, so I don't know what she expected. And Oblivion just bats her away and everything. So, yeah. And, as Oblivion's about to, make Baku fade from existence, with some, like, more of the rose thorn things, the vine thorns, whatever, and, like, missiles from the thorns, who shows up after Nem says he was right, but, Zeke. Yeah. In his Kamen Rider form, and he's like, you called? So, yeah. So, Zeke's back. For now, at least. I guess this kind of makes sense because of the fact that, like, he's relegated to a dream ghost where, you know, when someone remembers him, that's when he shows up now. And yeah, I thought he was deleted from existence, but at the same time, semi makes sense. So yeah. So whatever's going to happen in the next episode is going to happen. So this episode, I feel, was half good, half, I don't know. The first half, I think, is really good, but then when Baku goes to fight Oblivion, I feel like, granted, I think the episode does try and have the dialogue suggest that it's chalked up to Baku overworking himself and trying to do things in a certain way that aren't strategically advantageous. And I don't care for it. I don't really like it. But at the same time, I think it is a thing that Baku definitely, it's like a character flaw kind of thing, that Baku does try to get ahead of himself on this shit. Realistically, it would be more advantageous for them to, in the real world, track down the stuff with Otaka. And granted, he is leaving that up to Fujimi and Nasuka, but it would be better to just, I think, like, leave Oblivion to it for now. Because the thing about Oblivion is, Oblivion only exists in the dream world. Nem can now wake up in the real world. He can go back to the real world. He's got his allies back. And realistically, there's nothing really that Oblivion can do. I mean, yeah, Oblivion can fuck up the dream world, but it's the dream world. It's not reality, so unless if it starts affecting reality, which granted could happen, I think, if they wanted it to, it's just like, realistically, the best plan of attack is just to, like, not do anything for the meantime and just, like, track shit. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm just like, I don't really care for the direction that the second half of this episode goes, because it's also just mainly a curb stomp. Like, Baku he's not in his regular forms, in his regular Zeztz forms, he's not really as powerful as Oblivion. So yeah, just to me it makes no sense why he doesn't go extreme from the jump. Like, I kind of get going the wings form, but not immediately like crashing to the ground and going extreme. Granted, he's tried to fight Oblivion in his extreme form, but it didn't quite work. But granted, that was also when Phantom was there, so I think giving that another go would have been the better move there. But I also kind of understand where they were going with bringing Scsigs back, and everything, you know. And just letting, I guess, him have another moment and having him have a team-up battle with Baku, because we've had that with Otaka / Nox, and I guess we haven't had that with Scsigs yet. Because the last battle that we saw with Scsigs was against Punish, and he did not team up with Baku, but he used the Extreme Capsum to give himself a power boost. So, yeah. So whatever's coming up next is going to be interesting. So, yeah, so mixed bag of an episode for me. The thing is, I would just think that Baku at this point would want to be more strategic about dealing with Oblivion and wanting to get Nox back on his side so that he can help him with Oblivion and everything. I don't know, but at the same time, I think that is one of the reasons that he got Nox back on his side, was to deal with Phantom, to keep her occupied while he deals with Oblivion. I don't know, it just seems like, and it doesn't seem like there's much of a time limit on the stuff that's going on with Nox. But granted, I don't know. But yeah. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention something with 46. It's clear that, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be that, the lady moved Nem to her apartment in the city, in Tokyo. So, from the house that she was keeping her in, what seems like, I think, a suburb, I think is what it was. So, yeah. Or maybe a small town outside of the city? I don't know. It's kind of vague where that house is, but it seems like a suburb. But, yeah. And that just makes sense to me. Granted, we've only seen the ladies, like, it seems like her place and where she was doing her, her therapy shit to try and, like, mind control Baku a few times previously in this, and that was in the premonition dream. But, yeah, it just makes sense to me that they were in the real world equivalent to the apartment building they were in the dream world. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So, it seems like there's 3 episodes left, 48, 49, and 50, for Zeztz, and, I am probably going to do a complete, or one podcast episode on all 3 episodes to round out everything, rather than just doing 2 and then 1 for the series finale. I would do the series finale with the movie, but we don't have the movie subtitled and released overseas yet. So, yeah. I imagine when they release Zeztz on Blu-ray, they'll have that movie, and hopefully the stage show as well. I'd also like to see the stage show, because I did not see it when Toei did that, like, stream that they had for it, where you had to pay fucking $32, I think, and you got to stream it for however the fuck much you wanted in a 2-week span. And, like, they live streamed it and only added subtitles a couple days afterwards. I was not going to waste my money on that shit. No, fuck that. No. Maybe like $10, but not $32 fucking dollars. Fuck that. I do not understand why it was that much at all. Granted, Toei's wanting to make as much money as possible off their shit, but, like, Christ, have a decent price point for these things. Jesus. But, yeah. And it's not necessarily like I'm getting the episodes for free on YouTube to watch, so I want the live show to be free. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying have a fair price point for what you're getting. It's like, it's a live show. It's not the entirety of the series, and it's not the new movie for Zeztz. I'm just saying. So, yeah, so next podcast is going to probably be in 3 weeks when the last episode comes out. So, yeah. And also, really glad that I think I may have said this in the previous one. Really glad that Shout Factory started doing premieres with the live streams of the episodes. Makes these a lot easier to do because the episodes are right there, available for me to rewatch. So, yeah, for these podcast episodes. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say. Just a good episode with 46, and then an okay one with 47. So yeah. So I really don't have much else to say, guys. So for the YouTube outro, links in the description, all my shit. Subscribe if you want. I'll see you guys in the next one.